Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Food Systems Podcast brought to you by the Forum for the Future of Agriculture. I'm Rose O'Donovan. On our first podcast of 2026, we're going to be discussing what's on the Forum's agenda for the new year ahead and hearing some details about the annual conference taking place at the Square in Brussels on April 14th. And with me to discuss this is a man who needs no introduction, the Forum Chairman, Mr. Janez Potočnik. Lovely to see you, Janez. Welcome.
Hi, Rose. It's a pleasure, like always.
The first podcast of the new year, Janez. What can you tell us about the vision and the objectives of the Forum for the new year ahead, and also looking ahead to the annual conference taking place in April?
Yeah, a lot of things are going on in the world, and of course we are trying to accommodate the conference also to what is going in the world. So basically, the first topic which we want to address, it's pretty much linked to changing global world. What does that mean for agriculture, food, for environment? Then in the second theme, we are addressing then the questions which are related to financing, because we firmly believe that this is one of the topics which is pretty critical to make this transition possible. The third theme will be about, of course, common agriculture policy linked to the food and in particular land management. And we actually don't have a serious land strategy in Europe, if we are honest. And I think this is quite an important topic to be addressed. And the last part will be then devoted to AI, the role which it could play. Of course, there will be quite many inspirational talks also, which hopefully will somehow give new energy to the audience. And most importantly, we will have you and Stephen leading the conference.
For sure. My fifth year, Janez, my fifth year moderating. Let's go back to the land strategy. That's interesting. What does that entail? In your view, in your vision?
Actually, I'm also the member of something which we call Systems Transformation Hub. We have established it 2 years ago. Few of quite important institutions from the Club of Rome to Climate Kick, Metabolic, then World Resource Institute and Systemic. And one of the topics which we have decided to put on our own agenda is actually the land management. You know that there is a huge demand on land coming from various sites. And whenever you look from a single site, you get a different kind of answer because everybody looks to their own interests. And I think it would be really important to look to the land management simultaneously from all those angles, to put them in a kind of systemic perspective. And that's basically what we are doing there. But land management and in particular soil management are two really important themes for anybody who is working in agricultural area. And I think this should be absolutely attractive for the people in the room.
I'm just looking at the draft agenda, and the first session moderated by my co-moderator will be The End of the World as We Know It. What are the consequences for agriculture and environment? It's been an interesting couple of weeks, really, Janez, in the geopolitical situation as well, like looking at the turmoil that's in our world. What sort of discussions do you think will be on the day, will be driving that?
Yeah, it's difficult to predict what kind of discussions will be there, but one thing is certain, the geopolitical debate is getting complex. The world, as we have known, relatively stable, predictable. It's not really there. And the real question in that perspective is how Europe will position itself. And you have seen in the last weeks, month, that we are a bit struggling what to do, because somehow this partnership cross-Atlantic, which was pretty much stable, and it's now a bit questioned. And Europe needs definitely to move from a kind of passive to a kind of active approach.
And in what way? Because you speak a lot, I think the forum, one of its main guiding principles is international collaboration.
Yeah.
How can the forum play a role in that sort of disrupted world order, as you say, turbulent geopolitical situation? How do you drive that international cooperation?
No, forum has definitely some years ago went from European only focus to European and international focus. So we have now good collaboration through something which we produce as market outlooks with some of the partners. We have Canada, we have United States, we have Australia, European Union, which is currently part of that endeavor. We would hope to get connections also with other countries from the global south, and we are looking there. But global cooperation there, it's for us a must. And I think when some of these chains, I would say official chains, are falling, I think these kinds of cooperation are extremely important to build them up again, and in particular to focus on the issues which are on the agenda from our own point of view.
Mm-hmm. Good point there. And you're talking about their international, global interconnections and collaboration. What about the regional conferences that are planned under the remit of the Forum for 2026? I understand that there's a trip to Dublin on the cards in early June.
It is early June trip to Dublin on the card. Then it's in November trip to Vilnius, Lithuania on the card. So, as you know, we have one yearly conference which is traditionally organized here in Brussels, but we do believe that those conferences, regional ones, are extremely important because many times people feel that they are detached from Brussels, and the only policy which you can have is coming to them. They will not come here, you know. So somehow we connect normally with the presidencies and so on, so that we somehow have the topic which we discuss pretty much aligned also with political context which is going on. And we have this year again 2 planned, and I think that's a good way for the forum to, if you want to become more European in that broad sense of view.
Fair enough. And as you say, it's linked with the EU presidency, but of course the one taking place in Dublin is in early June, and the presidency of the Irish presidency is starting on the 1st of July.
Yes.
So of course we're in the middle of the Cypriot presidency currently, in case there's any confusion there. Looking forward to that. I'll be moderating that. So welcome to my home soil, Janez, if you are in Dublin in early June. And going back to some of the points you raised about the annual conference, AI, how will artificial intelligence redefine what is possible in our sectors? That's one of the points on the agenda at the April conference, the annual conference. Of course, AI is very much omnipresent at the moment. How do you see the role of AI sort of playing a role for good in the sectors that the forum is most concerned about?
Yeah. You know, AI, it's one of the fascinating new technologies. And like all new breakthrough technologies, it's bringing good and bad. So I think our role is actually how to use the good and how to limit the bad. Because in the world where profits are pretty much leading our behavior, I think such a strong weapon as artificial intelligence, it's quite a serious challenge. And of course, that's not so much part of the debate in the forum. We will more debate about these opportunities which are connected with the AI. But, it's moving so fast that it's really difficult to follow, in particular for the persons like me, 65 plus. So,
for me as well, I can tell you that. Yes,
but it's I think it's a theme which one cannot avoid to have it discussed in a forum, but it will be. It's quite challenging one, to be honest. But I think let's hear and see what people are thinking about that. What opportunities there are existing for improving everything what we are trying to do in this kind of interface between the food, agriculture, and environment. And in what best way artificial intelligence could be used for that purpose.
Yeah, very timely, as you say, a very timely discussion there on artificial intelligence and to use it for good. Let's talk about research and development, Janez. Obviously a topic very close to your heart. You previously served as Commissioner for Science and Research, of course. What are we doing right in Europe, and what should we do? What should we be doing better, and how can we improve that? Obviously, this is something that's very much driving your own work here at the forum and outside. Maybe you might tell us a little bit of the other work that you're involved in. Of course, when you served as Commissioner, you had oversight on the European research area. So I'd just be interested to hear, your thoughts on where Europe is going. As you said, we find ourselves in a very tricky situation at the moment. How can research and innovation perhaps drive that and, as you say, kind of emerge stronger?
To put it a bit in the context, you know that one of the questions which is currently very much circulating, is European competitiveness endangered? And one of the finger it's normally pointed onto the European Green Deal, which I think it's wrong, and it's pretty much short-minded mistake. European competitiveness was already for decades endangered, but the times were much more peaceful. So we have many times not really, we have lost some of the technological breakthroughs. We have been quite confident in our capacities, in our engineering. We have a lot of times defend the undefendable, and we have not invested enough in knowledge and innovation. European economy is also very much, as you know, import dependent, which was shown during the Ukrainian crisis, particularly on energy. We are import dependent also on many of the critical raw materials, which means that we are fragile. That's why using natural resources in Europe in most sustainable way, saving them, it's actually very much competitiveness way of looking to those questions. So in that context, as you mentioned, knowledge and innovation is pretty much central. And when you look to the two reports which were launched of two distinguished leaders, Draghi and Letta, I have always considered Letta report, which is talking about internal market, a kind of more European and more holistic in that way. Why? Because Europe is strong when it works together. And our internal market with 4 freedoms which are currently existing, it's simply not functioning as internal market.
Not fit for purpose, as the Letta report.
Exactly,
That was when April 2024, right? So as you say, there's room for improvement, certainly.
That's absolutely room for improvement. And one of the... member states are still pretty much defending their own incumbents and looking to their own interests, which of course it's making European interest weaker. And then we collectively complain that Europe it's not competitive on the outward. But one of the ideas which Letta report put on the table, actually, it was already Jacques Delors' idea, and I have picked it up as Commissioner for Science and Research in 2007. It's that we would need to add to these 4 freedoms also the 5th freedom. It is called freedom of movement of knowledge and innovation and data and researchers. Having something like, European university diploma, which would be recognized all across, or European researcher standard, which would be recognized across European Union. So
that it could go over the borders.
Removing all the obstacles which are good for not only for researchers, are good for many of the families which are included. It's actually no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. But the research area, the European research area, what do you see as the sort of the obstacles or the barriers there? I mean, is that working in practice, the European research area, or can that be further improved?
It could be further improved. Okay, we have European research area has the same problems as internal market. So idea is great. In principle, it's there. But when it comes to practice, a lot of those things are still not working. For example, many of those things which are connected to pension rights and so on for researchers, if they are moving from one country to another, are not settled. And it's an obstacle for real free movement. So it's an idea which I think if we connect it with somehow fixing the gaps of the 4 freedoms of internal market, which could give a really major impetus for the future of Europe. You know that each of the family, when we are on the family level, we care for the future of our kids.
Sure.
We want them educated. We want them prepared for the life. But why not look to the same way to the nation if we educate nations, if we empower them with the knowledge? I do personally believe that's the best way to protect the future of European Union and actually the values which matter for us in European Union.
And was that taken up in the letter report, the idea of the 5th freedom?
Yes.
It was mentioned, it was developed.
It was developed
is it in line with your own thinking, Janez?
It is entirely in line with my own thinking, even more actually today we are publishing a joint article with Enrico Letta on that, which is basically talking exactly about that, which is talking about the urgency. We are actually proposing to put a kind of a clock on Berlaymont, which would be deducting time that we have for this 28 regime, which was announced already by Commission. And by the way, the president of the Commission, van der Leyen, mentioned in the address to the Parliament the idea of the 5th freedom and that they will work on that. So it's in the pipeline.
It's in the pipeline. It's taking wings. Always interesting to hear your insights, and certainly your background. It colours, your involvement in the Forum for Agriculture. So very interesting, and I'm sure that that's something as well that will be, that we'll be coming back to during the course of the year, whether it's within the Forum or certainly in the annual conference on April 14th. A pleasure as always, Janez. A pleasure to hear your insights. Look forward to the work of the Forum and look forward to seeing you at the annual conference on April 14th and all of our listeners. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to another edition of the Food Systems Podcast brought to you by the Forum for the Future of Agriculture. It's been a pleasure having you with us today. Please do join us the next time, and looking forward to seeing you all at the annual conference taking place at the Square in Brussels on April 14th. Until then, thank you very much, Janez.
Thank you.